The auto industry is in the middle of, well, its biggest shakeup in 100 years. But here's the thing, it's not about bigger engines or flashier designs anymore. Nope, it's all about the code, the software running inside the car. So let's break down what's being called the car's iPhone moment. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around what's happening to cars, we gotta take a quick trip back in time to our phones. Remember these guys? The old feature phone? Whatever it could do on day one, that's all it could ever do. The functions were permanent, baked right in. And then the smartphone arrived. It completely blew that model up by separating the physical phone from the software. And just like that, you had this incredible world of apps and constant updates. And the old way, it felt like it belonged in a museum overnight. And believe it or not, that exact same massive shift is happening as we speak, but with cars. Think about it. A traditional car, its functions totally locked in the second it rolls off the assembly line. That's basically the feature phone. And the big disruptor, the smartphone on wheels, that's the software-defined vehicle, or what everyone's calling the SDV. All right, so what exactly is a software-defined vehicle? The basic idea might sound simple, but trust me, the implications are absolutely revolutionary. This is a shift that completely changes the very meaning of owning a car. So, what it really boils down to is this. An SDV is a car that's defined less by its mechanical parts and more by its code. It's not just a static object that slowly depreciates anymore. It's a dynamic, living platform. And that means your car can get faster, it can get safer, it can get new features, all while it's just parked in your driveway. All through a software update. Sound familiar? Yep, just like your phone. So you've got all these benefits, right? High flexibility, cost efficiency, better performance, improved safety. But these aren't just bullet points on a spec sheet. They actually create a whole new business model. And, Tesla are the ones who really perfected this. They use those over-the-air updates to do things like boost acceleration, squeeze more range out of the battery, and constantly improve their full self-driving system, long after the keys were in the owner's hand. It completely transforms a one-time sale into this ongoing, evolving relationship. Okay, but here's the catch. You can't just make a car act like a smartphone by throwing some new software at it. No way. You have to completely rip out and redesign its entire nervous system. So let's take a look at what's under the hood, so to speak. Now, this is the single biggest hurdle for all the legacy automakers. For decades and decades, cars were built using what's called a distributed architecture. The best way to think about it is, well, it's a mess. Every single function, your power windows, your anti-lock brakes, the engine management, had its own tiny separate computer from a different supplier running different code. It's this tangled, heavy, and unbelievably inflexible web. So the only way out of that mess is to centralize control. And right now, automakers are taking two main approaches. The first is called domain centralized architecture. You can think of it as a logical first step. They're grouping related functions together. It's the route that companies like Hyundai and Volkswagen are on. But the ultimate goal, kind of the holy grail of this whole thing, is the zone-centralized architecture, which is what Tesla built from the ground up. In that system, computers control things based on their physical location in the car, which radically simplifies wiring, cuts down weight, and unlocks the true potential of the SDV. And this move towards centralization leads us to the single most important concept in this entire transformation: hardware-software decoupling. Seriously, this is the magic key. It's what allows a car company to develop one central operating system that can run on different car models with different physical parts. And that completely turns the traditional auto supply chain on its head. It cracks open those old black boxes where suppliers used to lock their hardware and software together.
All right, so we've rewired the nervous system. Now, the car needs two more things: a really powerful brain to process all the information, and a soul, an operating system to manage it all.
Yeah, you can really think of this new tech stack like a human body. The bones are that centralized EE architecture we just talked about. That's the skeleton. The brain is the high-performance processor, the computer that does all the serious thinking. And the soul is the vehicle's operating system, the consciousness that pulls everything together and makes the whole thing work. And that brain, it has to be unbelievably powerful. We are talking about processing power in the range of 1,000 trillion operations per second. That's what it takes to handle the constant flood of data from cameras, radar, and LiDAR, and then make the split-second critical decisions that true autonomous driving requires. As you can imagine, that kind of demand has kicked off an absolute war between the tech giants to become the provider of that brain. You've got NVIDIA on one side, offering this incredibly powerful all-in-one package that lets car makers get to market fast. Then there's Qualcomm, leveraging everything they learned from the mobile world to offer a super efficient integrated chip. And of course, there's Tesla, who, in classic Tesla fashion, just decided to design their own chips in-house to squeeze out every bit of performance and save a ton of money. So what about the soul of the car, the operating system? Well, it has this incredibly complex and critical job. It has to manage life or death safety systems at the exact same time it's running your music app. And the secret sauce that makes this possible is a piece of tech called a hypervisor. The best way to think of it is like a digital traffic cop. It creates these strong virtual walls so that a glitch in your Spotify app has absolutely zero chance, I mean zero, of ever affecting your braking system. So in reality, there isn't one single OS to rule them all. It's not like your computer or your phone. Instead, it's a really strategic mix. Automakers are basically picking the best tool for each specific job. For the supercritical stuff like autonomous driving, they'll use something incredibly robust and secure like BlackBerry QNX. For your infotainment screen, your maps and music, they'll use something like Android Automotive, because we all know how to use it. And for the basic underlying vehicle controls, they use a proven industry standard called AUTOSAR. So all this groundbreaking technology has basically set the stage for an incredibly high-stakes race. So let's look at the key players and their game plans in this battle between the pioneer, the traditional incumbents, and the new invaders from the tech world. Yeah, and this quote right here, it just perfectly frames the entire challenge. The other guys aren't just developing new tech, they are desperately trying to catch up to a 10-year head start. It's not just about technology, it's a huge gap in how they even think about building a car. And this is what that head start actually looks like on a timeline. I mean, check this out. Tesla started pushing out over-the-air updates way back in 2014. By 2019, they were already designing and shipping their own custom chips. Meanwhile, the established guys like Hyundai and Volkswagen, they're in an all-out sprint to launch their first fully-fledged SDV platforms by 2025. They are playing a very, very serious game of catch-up. Tesla's strategy is just pure Silicon Valley playbook. We're talking total vertical integration. They design everything in-house, from the silicon chip itself to the software and the user interface. They built their cars around that super efficient zone architecture from day one. And crucially, they don't see software as a feature. They see it as a product that they can sell directly to you and improve over time. Now, the incumbents, we're talking about giants like Hyundai and Volkswagen, they face a much, much harder path. They can't just wipe the slate clean and start from scratch. They have these massive existing supply chains and factories, so they have to transition, using that domain architecture as a sort of bridge to the future. They're forced to lean heavily on partnerships with big tech, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Google, and they're in a mad dash to build up their own software talent. That 2025 date, for them, it is absolutely a make or break year. So, where does this all lead? What's the end game? I mean, this whole transition is incredibly expensive and insanely difficult. It's not just about getting cooler infotainment screens or a few new features. Nope, it is all building towards one single ultimate prize.
Look, the ability to update your Spotify app is nice for sure, but that is not the end game. Every single technical piece of the puzzle we've talked about today, that centralized architecture, those ridiculously powerful processors, the secure operating systems, every single one is a non-negotiable prerequisite. They are the essential building blocks you need to create a car that can truly, and most importantly, safely drive itself. So the car as we've known it for 100 years, it's fundamentally changing. It's becoming a piece of hardware that's defined entirely by its software, an evolving platform, just like your smartphone. And this leaves us with a really powerful final question to chew on. When you go to buy your next vehicle, you're not just choosing a car maker anymore, you're choosing a software company. So the real question is, who will you trust to write its code?